to urban environment. We are here on behalf of a European project financed by the European Institution for Innovation and Technology. That's called EIT, Urban Mobility. The project we are having the webinar, and why we call to you is called CALL4SMS. We would talk a little bit later about that. As for the technicalities, basically the presentation would be in English. So those of you who cannot speak English has to switch to Hungarian. And I would tell it also in Hungarian how to do this now. Szóval jó napot kívánok, Gressel László vagyok, az OnClusternek a cluster menedzsere. Alapvetően az előadás, a mai előadás az angol nyelven lesz, úgyhogy egy technikai részlettel kezdenénk. Aki angolul nem tud beszélni, az magába itt a Zoom kontrollerbe vagy a kép alján, vagy a kép tetején fog találni egy ilyen kis földgömböt. Ez a földgömbre, hogyha rákattintanak, akkor ki lehet választani 3 fajta nyelvet, az off, az English-t, meg angolt, English, meg a Japanese-t. Sajnos a magyar az nem volt közte, úgyhogy azoknak, akinek tolmácsolás kell, tehát angolul fog szólni, azok kapcsoljanak át a japánra. Ez egyetlen kivétel, ez alól majd szólni fogok itt az alpolgármester úrnak a köszöntője, ami magyarul lesz, akkor természetesen vagy az off, vagy az English nyelven lehet hallgatni az eredetit. Okay, so this was the Hungarian technology explanation, and I would explain it also to you in English. So this conference has an interpretation to Hungarian, and the technical issue is that you have to go to either to the bottom of the page or at the top of the page to the controllers. You would find the globe symbol there. And on this globe symbol, you would find 3 options. One is English, one is off, and the third is Japanese. So whenever, and that would be at one part, and I would tell you when the vice mayor of Zalaegerszeg would speak, that would be in Hungarian. So if you don't understand it, please click on the Japanese language. Unfortunately, there is no Hungarian there, and then you can hear the translation. After that, we'll go back to the original language, and then you would. So thank you for that. And now we continue with the agenda of today's meeting. Today we have a couple of speeches. We start with this opening of a webinar. That's what is going on now. The second point would be the welcome speech of the Vice Mayor of Zalaegerszeg. After that, I would introduce the CALL4SMS project, and then we would hear about some international good practices. We would hear about the city of Milan. We would also hear about the city of Helmond. We would also hear about a very interesting Interreg program by dynamic and flexible planning for local.
Dinamikus és rugalmas alacsony szén-dioxid kibocsátású közlekedés.
University, how the mobility service can be introduced into the.
Az Eindhoveni Műszaki Egyetem előadásáról fogunk hallani a közlekedésről szolgáltatás.
How we try to develop the Austria, Croatia, Hungary, Slovenia region cooperation with the help of EIT Urban Mobility RIS. And then I would show you some of our projects in this region and within Hungary. And last but not least, I would also like to present you an initiative from our side, how we would like to cooperate with you in the next years. So first of all, I would like to ask the Vice Mayor of Zalaegerszeg to have his speech. So please, those who are speaking English, click on the globe and go to the Japanese language. Akkor elsőnek fölkérném Zalaegerszeg alpolgármesterét, Pali Zoltán urat, hogy tartsa meg a köszöntő beszédét. Sajnos nem halljuk. Elnézést. Nem, sajnos nem hallható. Esetleg nem. A japán nyelvről esetleg, ha az angolra vagy az offra átkapcsol, lehet, hogy akkor sikeresebb lesz. Nem, sajnos nem. Nem. Szerintem próbáljunk meg egy kijelentkezést, meg egy bejelentkezést, és akkor lehet, hogy megoldódik. Azt a Connect to Audio-t. Jó, hogyha így nem működik, akkor felhívjuk az alpolgármester urat, akkor... Szia!
Excuse me, Laszlo, you are just muted.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Most próbálj beszélni, Zoli, szerintem most. Hallunk, nyugodtan mondjad.
Az elmúlt években, évtizedekben láthattuk, hogy a társadalmi mobilitás és a városon belüli mobilitás milyen kihívásokat jelentenek, mind a nagy, mind pedig a közepes és mind pedig a kisebb városok számára. Zalaegerszeg, ami egy 60 000-es város, és hozzá 15 000 mint egy 75 000 embert képvisel. Itt is komoly társadalmi és műszaki kihívásokat jelent számunkra, hogy ezt a kérdéskört eszközöljük.
Bocs, Zoli, úgy néz ki, hogy nem teljesen értenek. Be tudsz kapcsolódni, akkor én, és nyugodtan folyamatosan beszélhetsz, én akkor tovább megyek az előadással, és akkor megpróbálom.
Szerintem menjünk, mert ez nem tudom miért nem működik, mert ugye a tesztem megműködött.
Igen. Jó, bocsánat.
Semmi gond. De akkor nagyjából ez volna, köszönöm, hogy ez fel van.
Oké. Nagyon szépen köszönöm.
Szia.
Sorry for that, for a technical problem. Yes. Maybe we can talk with later, but I think we should go with the program because it cannot be here. So please switch from the Japanese to the English, to the original language. Yes. The next issue is that I would like to introduce you a little bit of the CALL4SMS project. Why is it called and why we are talking about this? So the CALL4SMS project stands for the Citizen Name Living Lab for Smart Mobility Solutions. So that's the abbreviation of the project. And when we started it 1 year ago, the main idea was that we already have a proving ground next to Zalaegerszeg, and we wanted to connect it with the Graz, Maribor, also Croatia testing regions or a region in that. We also had in EIT Urban Mobility other 2 testing regions where we could cooperate with. One was the Helmond testing area with the Automotive Campus Helmond, and the other was in Portugal-Spanish border in Galicia. That was the synagogue next to Vigo. We also had 2 big cities cooperating with us, the city of Milano, and the city of Munich. And the objective was to have a proper methodology how urban mobility testing can be done in these cities. So what we did within the project is that next to this testing region, we involved a knowledge institution like the Budapest University of Technology, Eindhoven University, also CTEC and KTH from Stockholm, and we also involved industry players like our cluster, Zone Cluster, Skoda, and other players. So as far the consortium, so we are the consortium. We are a cluster of the bigger Hungarian players, the subsidiaries of these companies. And within the project, as I said, we have 3 cities, Helmond, Milano, Munich. We had universities, and we also have industry. About the project, it started in January. We had a kickoff meeting in Budapest. Some of them you have already met. And after that, unfortunately, there was this COVID situation. So we went to online settings. We had the design concept in June. We had the draft business model in September. And the platform business model, we did it at the end of November. And now we are at the phase of finalizing the first year of the project about the platform development and also the dissemination. Originally, the project would continue next year, but I will tell you this: that was a decision that it shouldn't be continued like this. So we are seeking other opportunities to continue this work. So as first about the project, it has to be defined what is called as a smart mobility solution. So smart mobility solutions are considered to be any implementation of disruptive mobility technologies in urban environment, which cannot be considered as an extension or a renewal or a replacement of the present urban mobility system. What does cities have to do with this kind of solution? Because there are many of that. So the concept has to be approved against the city needs and adequacy of the citizens. So we shouldn't test that kind of solutions which are not in line with the needs of the cities or the citizens. If we have a concept and an implementation plan and a very good team, the performance should be tested and checked whether it's really working in a city environment, and if it's perfectly working in a city environment, the introduction of these solutions have to be approved and licenses. So these were the main tasks we have introduced in our project that those who are dealing with this kind of innovation has to do in a city environment. How does it like from an economic perspective? First we need a kind of we can call it startups who have idea team implementation for this kind of solutions. If we can prove that their idea is good, their team is excellent, and they have a very good implementation plan, then they can get to the next phase. We call it scale-up phase, where we can do pilot testing within the city. And if we have the pilot testing and it has good results, then we can say that we have a kind of a business solution. We can go global or also bring into other businesses. Yeah, we can put here as a from a startup expression, it's either a unicorn or a zebra. Those initiatives which has won at least $1 million investment, that's what they are called. How does it relate to the city planning and also to EIT urban mobility? So normally cities like in our project, Helmond, Milano, Prague, Vigo, also Zalaegerszeg has a vision for 2030, 2050. So Europe is supposed to be the first carbon neutral continent, and all the cities has their plans how they would like to achieve or what they would like to achieve in the urban environment, like livable urban places, car-free environments, sustainable mobility options, easy to travel one from A to B, and of course satisfy citizens. And there are so many technical solutions, we don't really know what is working and what is not. So as a first thing, it's better to have the local solutions get together. That's what is the proof of concept means. We can, if these solutions are work, we can group them and try to develop some user cases which can be used and tested on city environment. So if we know what is the assortment, we can put this together. And if we can really work on a local scale with this kind of combination of solutions, then we can go up onto a global scale and we can really make a change. So this is a kind of a rollout sections. EIT Urban Mobility is actually supporting these initiatives. So we started with innovation, we can do with business creation, and there is a special place in EIT Urban Mobility which would support the rollout of these issues, that is factory. Since we are in the Eastern European context, EIT Urban Mobility also has a special instrument called RIS, which is focused especially on the Eastern European countries with better financing. And of course, we shouldn't really forget that there should be some kind of education or hard development activities within this platform. So how does it look like in an urban ecosystem if we introduce this kind of initiative? So what we said is that in the middle is we called it a boundary spanning organization. This is what can operate a platform. What goes into the platform? And let's see from first the city side. So cities has a huge value. They know a lot of data about how citizens are doing. We can collect it with sensors, with cameras, with all kinds of things, but this data is quite valuable. We can now mainly use it for traffic optimization to become a better mobility in the cities, but we can also use this data as a form of feedback for the testing. So it's a live data, so we can use it for all kind of testing of innovative solution. So who is bringing this innovative solution? And that's where we go to the industry side. So if we can develop a local ecosystem where the local SME startups, also maybe if it's next to a proving ground, the testing company of the proving ground, and also the multinational firms has questions, what is working and what is not, then we can bring it to this platform and we can connect the city with the industry through the platform. Of course, this has to be done in a good way. I mean, methodological way. So that's where the academic partners or the knowledge institution partners are coming in. So they can provide us with the suitable methodology, how to test, what to test, how to connect, and we can also give them feedback on how these methodologies work in the future. So as a result, we can give the testing results back to the industry, and the industry can develop competitive mobility services and products which are not just competitive in the local environment, but maybe in other cities. And because these are competitive and this was local firms, we also have one other input, that is that local workforce can be employed. So we can having implemented this model, we can mobilize the economy, we can have more employment, and we can also optimize the city. So that was the main concept behind the CALL4SMS, and we are developing a platform for that. So I would thank you for the attention about the CALL4SMS project. If you need further information, you can go to the call4sms.eu. And I would really talk a bit about later what would be the continuation of this project. So as a next step, so continue with the agenda of our meeting, I would like to ask the City of Milan, so Gabriella from the City of Milan, to hold his presentation, and I would stop sharing my screen. Yeah, you are sharing it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Laszlo. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gabriele Grea. I'm the project manager of the project CALL4SMS for the municipality of Milano, and work together with my colleagues Clara Callegaris and Roberto Nocciolino in giving you a bit of a framework of what is the endowment for testing innovations and smart mobility solutions within the municipality of Milano. So what is the background of the mobility context from the demand and supply side, and as well we will give you some example of where the strategy is heading to in order to allow and to take the best out of innovation in the mobility field with a small presentation of an ongoing project which is called Sharing Cities, that has very interesting applications in smart mobility. So let's start. So the mobility demand in Milano. As you can easily see, we have first of all a very strong presence of local public transport, which counts within the city area for 50% of the daily trips, with private vehicles, where private vehicles have a share around 30% of the total traffic. Very different is the situation when we move outside the city boundaries, so in the metropolitan areas, where private mobility has a predominant role with 58% of the total trip, but still local public transport, so railways, buses, light railways, buses, and metros still account for 37%. Not only the demand, but a few words about the supply. Milano has an extensive network in relation to public transport, which is based on two main pillars: the metro system with 4 lines and 113 stations, and the suburban railway system, which is managed actually at regional level, which counts for 12 lines and around 600 kilometers connecting the central area with the metropolitan area. The system is completed by surface public transport, very important, based on buses, tramway, and trolleybuses, which spread on the territory around 4,700 public transport stops, which represented quite, let's say, capillary coverage of the territory. But let's say the situation is complemented with the contribution of the very fast growing phenomenon of shared mobility. In Milano, we have seen since 2004 this phenomenon improving and growing at a very, very relevant and quick rate, starting from the first experiences with bike sharing and growing fast also with the contribution of car sharing. We now have a fleet which is around 3,300 cars mostly in the free-floating scheme. We have more than 13,000 bike sharing vehicles, around 8,000 free-floating, and more than 5,000 station-based, distributed all over the city. And of course, we are, say, the city of Milano is experiencing the growth of the so-called micro-mobility and the mopeds sharing, which is, let's say, the most recent phenomenon with quite important numbers: 6,000 e-scooters and 2,300 mopeds. What is interesting to note in the evolution of the system is how much the importance of electric mobility is growing, not only for mopeds and micromobility, which are mostly clearly almost completely electric, but also for car sharing, with let's say a growing growth of electric vehicles, and for bike sharing, with the integration, especially for the station-based system of e-bikes, allowing lower distances and better connection between the central and the peripheral areas. But we don't only rely on supply in order to provide a good environment for innovation in sustainable mobility. One of the important elements of the city strategy is represented by the mobility access regulation. In Milano is, let's say, represented by a twofold approach, two different areas. One is called Area B and the other one Area C. When we talk about Area C, we talk about the very center, an area which is restricted to for more pollutant vehicles, and is where a congestion charge is applied. And then we have an Area B, which is broader and is where the latest say restrictions on the level of pollution emitted by the vehicles is applied, and specific rules for heavy duty vehicles as well. What were the results of this approach? If we compare the situation today with the situation in 2012, so where first Area C or Area C was applied, we can see that there has been a very, very relevant reduction of traffic and of accidents, -29, -26. But also at the same time, in order to, let's say, witnessing the integrated approach that the city has carried out, a very important growth in public transport, demand, +17 on the surface public transport, and +12 on service public transport, and +17 connected to the underground. Therefore, we can say measures, the mix of measures, including the improvement of the supply, brought to a significant model shift in the last 8 years, and brought, of course, to important environmental benefits, with a drop of the most pollutant vehicles by 49%, and the, let's say, raise of cleaner vehicles, so electric and hybrid, by +6%. These mix of demand, supply, and regulation, of course, paves the way for further developments and the creation of a testing of an innovation testing framework for the city. The city aims at becoming a laboratory for testing innovation, also integrating the continuous development and redevelopment of their areas and of their urban planning, with the continuous improvement of the mobility system. For this reason, I present you and I highlight you 3 elements of the framework for innovation where that Milano is developing. Two examples are represented by areas where the redevelopment is envisaging and is going to be integrated with new experiments for sustainable mobility. The first one, namely, is called the Mind District, is the redevelopment project for the area which hosted the Expo 2015. In this area, there will be the redevelopment envisaged the settlement of different functions, including the Human Technopole Research Center, the new Milano University campus, a new hospital for the whole area of the city, and a sustainable development hub. All these elements, together with a residential development, will bring new traffic flows, new mobility flows, which will, of course, have to be served with innovative and integrated solutions. Similar story about one of the biggest redevelopment plans in the, let's say, recent history of Milano, which is the redevelopment plan of 7 former railway yards. As you can see from the tiny map, distributed around the city, but still within the city borders. And among these areas, we selected one which is very interesting for several reasons, which is the Porta Romana railway yard. One reason is that this area is part of the broader area of experimentation selected within the Sharing Cities project, which I will talk about very soon. And the second one is that this area has been selected to be the Olympic village for the 2026 Winter Olympics, which will take place in Milano and Cortina. Therefore, again, an area with strong development dynamics which need innovative solutions. Third initiative I am going to highlight here briefly, according to the time remaining, is the Joint Research Lab for Autonomous and Connected Electrified Urban Mobility, a joint venture between the municipality and academia and technology industry in order to develop and especially test solutions tailor-made for the city of Milano in order to bring a new generation of mobility on the roads, making the best of the technologies which allow autonomous driving and connected vehicles and electrified urban mobility. So what do we expect? Where does the strategy lead? The strategy leads the strategy towards connected and automated mobility leads to a strong focus on the connectivity and the automation of the public transport network, of the public transport lines, especially the surface transport. Brings as well towards a better connectivity and connection with the access monitoring systems and the technologies which are already in place in the cities, and that they manage the access restrictions, bring towards the development of new seamless mobility services in order to better integrate the different options, so shared mobility, so market services and traditional public transports, and so on, and further innovations. So this is let's say the focus of a future strategy, the actual strategy of the city towards connected and automated mobility. So now let me conclude telling you a bit in detail what the Sharing Cities project is and which innovations developed and implemented for the city of Milano within the last 4 years. The project is funded by Horizon 2020 Lighthouse Smart Cities and Communities. The time frame is the project started in 2016 and will end in 2021. The coordinator is Greater London Authority, and Milano is one of the lighthouse cities, together with London and Lisbon. And the project has also 3 cities which are considered fellow cities, so that let's say learning from the main development of the lighthouse cities. The project is based on 3 main principles. So people, a strong attention to the continuous citizen engagement. Place, a range of applications in different fields: energy management, building retrofit, smart lampposts, and mobility, e-mobility and connected mobility. And then a platform which is named Urban Sharing Platform, which allows the integration and coordination of the different data that are generated and used within the cities. Let's talk about smart mobility. So the project focuses on 5 ranges of actions. The one is related to e-bike sharing. New bikes and new stations are in place in the thanks to the project in the project area in order to better connect the center and the periphery. 10 mobility areas are being developed where multimodal exchange and electric vehicles charging have been put in place. So a very important and innovative infrastructural measures. Then 2 experiments of condominium car sharing have been carried on in very big blocks, 6 blocks with 2,000 inhabitants, in order to lower the dependency on the private car and as well the congestion in densely populated residential neighborhoods. An experiment on smart parking with the identification and the development of a network of sensors for better monitoring the stops and the parkings of vehicles on road. And last but not least, a test of e-logistics distribution system based on e-vans and cargo bikes, and where 4 supermarkets in the areas are using these new solutions in order to make the last mile logistics more sustainable. So these elements would be, let's say, standalone, or would be simple experiments if they would not be coordinated by the vision of the platform. The platform for the data management and exchange is quite complex. I am just highlighting 2 main elements which can be interest also for the context of our project. The platform has a component, so-called interoperability platform, which is exposing data for applications within the municipality, let's say, perimeter, but also beyond to third parties via open API. The interoperability platform receives either data or either directly APIs by different vertical applications and integrates and provides through the gateway the possibility of using these data, or receives data or is connected to the data which are merged into the so-called data lake, the second component. Data lake is managing large amounts of data and keeps the history of the variations, and is very useful also for urban planning, for example, and mobility planning in our case. So as I said, what is the connection between the experiments and the different services? The connection is, let's say, the platform enables the continuous improvement and the integration of the innovations and on the services to provide, in order to provide better knowledge and better, let's say, integration between different services. We have here 2 small examples about bike sharing. The system is receiving GPS information during the project timeframe was 6.7 million GPS points, and is tracking the mobility journeys of the users. Therefore, we can let's say, we can have different application examples. One, for example, is the highlight of the most used path in order to optimize the supply and planning the future of the city. With the experiment on e-logistics, it happened more or less the same. The use of the platform, platform for within the mobility measures allowed a better knowledge of the phenomenon, allows a better planning approach for the loading, unloading infrastructure and urban spaces, and allows, of course, a better knowledge of the traffic and a new analysis on the traffic. So we can go, thanks to the extensive use of the platform, towards a data-driven mobility planning approach, which is absolutely very, very interesting and very important for the future planning of the dynamic phenomenon of mobility. So this is just one example of what the city is doing in order to, let's say, better innovate and integrate and set the scene for innovations such as connected and autonomous driving within the mobility network in the city. I thank you very much for your attention, and I'm open for questions now or later as you.
Thank you very much. Probably, can you stay with us until the end of the?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. I would suggest to have the question a little bit later because we are short on time. So we would go next with Tamara from Helmond, the city of Helmond, to have her presentation because she has to unfortunately go until the end. So thank you, Tamara. Can you share your screen?
Yes, I will have a look. I normally don't use Zoom, so I don't see where I can share my screen.
Yeah, in the bottom you see that green.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Okay, I think you can see my screen now.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay. For me today, my name is Tamara Goldstein. I work for the city of Helmond, and I'm coordinating all the smart and green mobility activities. What we do in the city of Helmond is that we are a living lab for several smart and green mobility solutions. And what we believe in Helmond is also in our mobility policy is that we will try to use our existing infrastructure to deal with our mobility challenges. And what we want to do is that we want to use technology first, infrastructural measures second. Focus is on, in the past was on CITS and automated driving, but we do have more, as you will see in the presentation, what will come. And to realize this ambition, we also actively support smart mobility pilots and showcases. We don't do that just because we like it, but also because we have some mobility challenges in Helmond. What we have in Helmond is we have a big regional road going directly through our city center, and with a high traffic volume, and especially with heavy duty. There is a lot of regional heavy duty traffic going through the city center. We work on our last mile connections. It's easy to reach Helmond by car. You can easily reach us by train. We have 4 train stations, and that's for a city of Helmond with less than 100,000 inhabitants, quite a lot. But when you want to go from the train station with public transport, it's really difficult. We just have one bus line running through the city, the whole city, and it just operates only in peak hours and not in the evenings, not in the weekends. We have some shared bikes at the train station, but when you arrive at the train station after the peak hour in the morning, there is no bike available anymore. So we need to do a lot of innovative actions on our last mile solutions. What we also will see is that in the Netherlands, but especially in Helmond also, we really used to use our car. And we did already do a lot of innovations on our traffic management. But what you still will see is that we have to deal with the growth of the city, which we expect for the next 20 years. And also after COVID, probably with an increased economy again, the roads will be too crowded, and we need a mobility shift from first thinking I will take my own car to going by active mobility, going walking or cycling, or sharing vehicles. So mobility transition is one of our challenge. And of course, road safety. And then especially on our regional roads, in this part of the Netherlands, we have the highest fatality accidents, unfortunately. So road safety always is of our interest and priority. Well, what you see here, for the ones who don't know where Helmond is, and where I'm now, you see Helmond is in the Netherlands. When you go to the right top of the sheet, we sometimes say the Netherlands is in the center of Europe. But when you then look a bit more to the left top of the slide right now, you see Helmond lies in the south of the Netherlands. We are in the Brainport area, and we are close to the city of Eindhoven. What you will see here is that in Helmond, we have a living lab with intelligent traffic light controllers. The traffic light controllers are adapted with ITS G5, but also with 3, 4G, and we even do tests with have a living lab in the city of Helmond with 5G testing for mobility. You also see here that we have an automotive campus in Helmond, and probably we will rename it to Mobility Campus with research institute, large companies, but also smaller companies working on innovation in smart and green mobility. Part of them are, for instance, Siemens, TAS, TNO are based there. And we also have the Regional Traffic Management Center for the south of the Netherlands. You see here between Eindhoven, where the Technical University is based, and Helmond, we have a highway, the A270. And this highway is really a living lab. There's all kind of intelligent roadside equipments like cameras and connectivity like ITS G5 and 5G. And we have also several projects and demonstration always running. And sometimes we also even close the road, for instance, for self-driving tests. When necessary, when you want to test on a real road with vehicles which are not approved to drive in the Netherlands, and you want to do a test on a highway, that is possible. And you see some pictures of an event, I think already in 2016. So, but basically every year we will have some tests for which we will need to close the road. What you will see is that the focus was always on automated driving, CITS, and these comes together in CCIM. And we start doing back pilots already in 2014. Yeah, what I see now is that when I look at CITS and automated driving, I see technologies there, and of course that will develop and that will keep going on. We have also our mobility policy ready, but I see a huge chance and huge challenge in breaking things to real life implementation. And we managed to do small scale tests, we managed to do large scale tests, but going to implementation, you always see other things popping up. like business models, but also acceptance of the users, safety, cybersecurity. They also pop in. Well, to give an idea of what we do in Helmond, we participate in a lot of projects, also European projects, and some of them are listed over here. I have some extra slides to go in a bit more into detail, but what you see here is a bottom line. We have projects focusing on CITS, and we have projects focusing on automated driving. And I will slightly scroll down to some of them. We also have projects on like say green mobility, like the H2Share project on fuel cells, and we also work on projects on hubs. What we did do on CITS, to give you an impression, Freilot was one of the first projects we worked on, and we did look there at energy efficient intersections. And we did look, could it be an advantage if we have the driver's information on the green light or the traffic light they are approaching? Will they make it to the green light or not? When the light is on red, will be on green when they arrive. And they also got some advice on the speed they have to drive. For instance, you see here a picture in Helmond where you can drive 70 kilometers an hour, and yeah, in order to get green, the driver here is getting the advice to drive 49 kilometers an hour, and then he will have the green light. What we did see in this project is that the results were pretty good. We see on the 14 equipped intersections we had, you see here the main road going through the city of Helmond, and the traffic lights we did equip for this pilot. We see 30% less stops. We see 30% also fuel reduction, and also around 30% less emissions. So this project was for us the reason to go on with CITS. It was the reasons with our local transporters, which are involved from the beginning in our projects, to go on, because 30% fuel consumption, that's what every transporter wants to hear, every logistic organization. And also, of course, for the research institute and technology institutes involved, and the companies, it was also the sign, yeah, we need to go on with this. So we did do in the project Compass 4D. We added several other cities, more vehicles, and also other services. And that project, oh, well, I'm going a bit too fast, resulted in the See the Difference project, where we did cooperate with the city of Bordeaux and as the CITS frontrunner city. And we did do a long-lasting pilot with around 100 vehicles, 26 equipment, and also a learning program. So we did have city twinning workshops and city pool events to learn other cities in Europe, what we did learn in our CITS project. Currently, we are working on the C-Mobile project, and in this project, we aim to go on large-scale deployments. So not testing anymore. So there is not a test software in our traffic light controllers. It is in the real life environment, and that is a pretty huge step to come from pilots with software running in your traffic light controller separately, where you can tune a bit when things don't work completely properly, or as you would like to see, into the real life environment. So that was that's a huge step we're working on right now. And in the C-Mobile project, you see here also, we don't do that alone, we do that with fellow cities. We had the C-Mobile architecture so that when you drive with an app, and when I drive across the border, I still can use the same app and get the same services. So that's a challenge, but a really, really nice project. What we do in that project in our region, we don't do that alone in Helmond. We do that with some servers on the highway, which are around rest time management and motorway parking availability. And we have also some CITS information services on the road highway running, like roadworks warning and road hazards warning. And we work with the city of Tilburg on trip platooning in a part of the city. The city of Eindhoven is focusing on some services in the city center on vulnerable road users. So traffic light, green priority for especially cyclists, and also a warning system for pedestrians and blind spot detection. In Helmond, we have around 50 intersections equipped now with traffic light controllers. So almost all our equipped intersections with traffic lights have now connectivity and ITS services running. What we now have running here is, besides the services, we also run on a highway like roadworks warning and road hazards warning. We also have emergency vehicle warning, signal violation warning, green priority, and closeout. And TNO is also testing in our city the urban CACC instrument. Besides the CITS project, we also did some projects on automated driving, for instance, the Coexist project. And in Helmond, we especially did do here simulation of the effect of automated vehicles in mixed traffic situation. And we also did do the city barometer to see are we already AV ready. And even for the city of Helmond, with our policy there, with a lot of experience on CITS and automated projects as a living lab, we still have also some steps to make. Currently, we're working on the Fabulous project. This is a last mile project where we will have a self-driving shuttle running from one of our train stations to our automotive campus. At this moment, we are doing some tests and making the vehicle complete. And I hope we will run the first wheeled rides in early 2021 in January. And you see here that the Fabulous project wasn't about really the development of the vehicle, but it was more on the pre-commercial procurement. So we started in 2018 with an open market consultation on a solution and a supplier choice, and some lab tests and the field tests. Yeah, due to COVID, some field tests are already done, like say in Norway and Finland, but the one in the Netherlands is a bit delayed, among others, because of the COVID-19 and approval measurements in the Netherlands for the vehicle. Last slide I have is about safety. Safety is really important for us. And also there we look what technology can bring besides the normal infrastructure measures you have or the speed limits you can set. So we are active, for instance, on intelligent speed assistant, and we were the driver of the intelligent speed assistant manifesto. So currently we're also preparing some tests on intelligent speed assistance. We did do a first test as part of the review project. And we also will do some tests with some Dutch cities. So this was my last slide. I think I did go through quite quickly, but I wonder if there are people having some questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tamara. And as far as I know, you cannot stay with us for more. So if you have any questions towards Helmond, then please have some questions. Is there any question?
Yes, I want to ask for Tamara.
Yes.
My question is about the Compass 4D. What does it mean? What kind of cooperation between the cities? Between Copenhagen, Helmond, Verona, Vigo, Bordeaux, Thessaloniki? Yeah,
well, good question. That project did run before I was working in the city of Helmond. But what you see in this project is that, we work together. Sometimes you work on the same services, but everyone, for instance, did use a different app. For instance, with Bordeaux, we also want to see the different project. We both had a different app for the same services. So that is something we did do differently in C-Mobile, where we can say this doesn't need to make any difference where you are. You need to have one app, and the app should work also in another city. So yeah, each city has a different, did work on different services within their own system. Unfortunately, in Compass 4D, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a kind of application about mobile phones. And those
yes. What we did do in Helmond was an ITS G5 at that moment with an onboard unit. And we had around 30 vehicles equipped that were vehicles for our emergency services, the fire brigade, and also some heavy duty trucks. Because what you saw in one of the pictures, we have a big road going through our city center with a lot of intersections, because that road is really crossing our city into our north and southern part. So there's also a lot of crossing traffic, especially also slow traffic like cyclists and walking. So what we want to do when the light is on green, we want to have as soon as possible as many vehicles through the green light. So we work there with services like a green priority for especially the heavy duty trucks and the emergency services, and with information of the drivers about the status of the traffic light, and also giving some speed advice. So they can anticipate more than what you can see when you just look outside the window of your vehicle.
So are you rated the vehicles for this weight? So this energy efficient, which car is energy efficient have a bigger priority, no? Or
no, not yet. No. So we were not that far in Compass 4D. I think Compass 4D did run before, like say until somewhere before 2016 or 2017. So we're not that far then. One of our projects on our wish list is indeed that we are working on geofencing, and that when we drive into certain zones in our city, in the center, but also in some living districts, that the vehicle automatically switch to a hybrid mode or electrical mode. But at that time, no, we just equipped several of, we worked together with our local transporters, and we did have a look at how many, who of these transporters is driving most through the city, which routes are they taken. And so we equipped some of their vehicles just to see if they could go through the city faster.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. If there is no more questions, I would give the word to Wolfgang Backhaus.
I would maybe have a question first tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes.
First, and further questions, then the presentation.
Okay. Hi, Tamara.
Hi.
Seeing all these projects you have worked or are still working in on the EU level also, do you see also from a city perspective in terms of your organization or your administration a kind of change? So is there also an organizational change, more integrated departments, more integrated ways to work? Do you need new profiles for your people working on transport planning?
Yes. Yeah, it's a really good question. It's a really actual question, because what we did do in the past, we had several project managers which had really a heart for innovation and smart mobility working on the European projects. What we did do the last few years is that, like to say, regular traffic engineers start working on the projects. For instance, in the coexist project, we had the traffic engineer working a lot on simulations, normally in the normal traffic, working on that project. So at that way, we try to integrate smart mobility not to specific department working on innovation, but into the real work of the traffic managers. And we need to do that more and more, because I see smart mobility is not, it's really ready for implementation. And that's not only for CITS and automated driving, but also for, like, say, shared mobility, parking, and all kind of other solutions. So we are making that transition right now. That smart mobility is part of everyday work of our traffic engineers and of city planning also. So we're in the middle of that change.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now we would progress with the next presentation about flexible and dynamic planning in low for cities in low carbon planning.
Okay, thank you very much, Laszlo. Can you already see my slides?
Yes, we can see your screen, yes.
Okay. Is it in presentation mode or?
No,
okay.
now it's
okay.
presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Laszlo, for the introduction. Yeah, my name is Wolfgang Backhaus from Ruprecht Consult in Cologne, Germany. And we are working in this Dynaxability for Central Europe project. And thank you for the invitation having us today in this webinar. Yeah, I will speak a bit about the Dynaxability project approach, which is based on a, you could say, experimental call from the Central Europe Interreg program. The idea was to combine outputs, deliverables from different research and innovation projects, and by this alone, already by this cooperation, foster innovation by bringing together these outputs. So different Central Europe Interreg projects and other funding streams like Horizon projects have been matched here in a contextualized way. You can see here how many projects actually are involved, or on how many projects we base our ideas in Dynaxability, in this Dynaxability project. You see a lot of Central Europe projects, but also Horizon projects, and the project Coexist, on which I will focus later, and the topic of cooperative connected automated mobility, this CCAM topic, is Coexist. So Coexist together with Interreg projects, for example, is a part of a matchmaking exercise for the CCAM topic, and also other initiatives like the Sustainable Mobility Planning Guidelines, updates to different topic guides, for example, for Mobility as a Service or CCAM, is also something we include here in these developments. Just a few information in a nutshell. So we have in this project 11 partners. They are also partly from this zone or involved in your activities, like, for example, Graz, Budapest, Koprivnica from Croatia. Other partners are Ruprecht Consult, Mobilissimus, Austria Tech, and Redmond. So Gabriele is also involved in this project as horizontal partners. It's more, as said, a concept innovation, a process innovation, rather than we have pilots. So it's a rather small project, and we still have more than a year to go. Maybe just explain very shortly this term Dynaxability, which is the core here actually. We see more and more the needs in terms of planning for mobility trends and introducing new mobility solutions, that it's of course getting more complex and more dynamic. And the public authorities responsible for the planning and introduction of these trends are actually more on a, let's say, low medium stage in terms of dynamic, and they're also used to work not in such complex environments. And it's actually a new request they have to deal with. So Dynaxability means, in our sense, the ability to manage change in dynamic and complex environments. And so it's often to find the right balance between long-term vision planning and also, let's say, more agile and adaptive ways to introduce these new mobility trends based often on emerging technologies. So it's actually a bit a paradigm shift from predict and act to more adaptive and agile ways of planning for mobility. So this is a bit the background on this terminology. The objectives of this project are actually, we have three main focal areas, which is the CCAM, which I mentioned already, mobility as a service is another one, and the urban vehicle access regulations, UVR schemes, are the third topics scheme or path we have in this project. We are working on trainings, tools to increase actually the dynaxability. So what can actually be done in terms of modeling, simulation, scenario building, but also in terms of what we just discussed with Tamara, how can actually cities prepare their capacity needs, the skills, the competences they need to do these new planning styles from an organizational perspective. So how should cities, planning departments should be organized? How should they work to, let's say, learn this new paradigm shift towards adaptive and agile planning? And last but not least, we have this sustainable urban mobility focus, where we would like to include more related best practices, capacity building information based towards these new trends and these topics, CCAM, MAS, and UVR, on a competence platform, which is a kind of a focus in this project. So what we actually doing, and I will now go more into the topic of the CCAM perspective. How do we use now the coexist project results? And the project was already introduced by Tamara, as Helmond was partner in this project. What we developed in this project is actually something like, we call it automation readiness. And we have three aspects of automation readiness we identified for the cities we work with, which is as first, the automation ready transport modeling environment. So how to include AVs into your transport modeling. Automation ready road infrastructure around the questions, where can AVs already drive in an early stage? How mature is our infrastructure to introduce AVs? And then I would say the focus already mentioned by Tamara, automation ready road authorities. How can we actually prepare now for this transition phase in the introduction of CCAM mobility solutions? I start with the last point, the automation ready framework. What we did is actually working on the topic of planning for CCAM, and based on different scenarios, we developed a framework with different mobility aspects of a mobility system. So policies, infrastructure, planning, capacity building, traffic management, but also the user acceptance, or the user is a central part of the system. And then divided this framework into three phases, which is the automation awareness phase, the planning for automation readiness, and then preparing and implementing CCAM actually. This framework is actually a kind of a self-assessment framework for cities, looking at different measures for these aspects and in different phases. What can I actually do at this stage to become automation ready? And it's more like you could say, frequently asked question catalog for cities. What is actually at these stages important and for these aspects? All in all, the exercise should lead to more informed decision making and reduce uncertainties around these topics of CCAM, where there is still a high share of uncertainties. We don't really know how AVs in the end will behave in coexistence with other modes. We still are researching on the impacts. There's still a lot of uncertainty about the impacts of CCAM. So this is something where you're at an early stage with iterative steps and approaches can come to more informed decision-making when planning for CCAM. We had workshops with all the cities. So here you see an example from the city of Stuttgart, where we actually went through this catalog and defined with the cities actions and measures how to prepare now. From an organizational perspective, for example, who needs to be involved in this planning? How can we set up our models? What is our joint understanding, which is actually the first and most important question of CCAM? How will we introduce this? Will we focus on public transport with last mile, first mile activities? Is it more the freight aspects? So this is something very important to start with. We did this exercise with all our cities, and now in the Dynaxability project, we will continue the work with the framework, and again with our cities like Leipzig, Budapest, we will work with this and see how we can actually adapt and improve this framework with the lessons learned made by the cities. Coming now maybe to the more modeling and road infrastructure part, and what was also some insights and conclusions from the Coexist project. We prepared the transport models in our cities based around 3 questions actually, or the scenarios later than we simulated. What's actually the market share of AVs? How common are AVs at this point of time? As we in the Coexist project focused very much on this early transition phase. So a high share of conventional vehicles, you could say, and only a small percentage of AVs introduced into our mobility systems. Where can they drive? So this infrastructure part, what are actually their capabilities and where can they drive in our road infrastructure? And a very important part where we spent a lot of time in the first year of the project, how do they actually behave? So what's the driving behavior of AVs? How do they drive? And therefore we defined several, or 4 in this case, driving logics from rail safe to cautious, normal, and all-knowing, which actually are different steps in the development of AVs over the next years from our perspective. And actually we did this based on real driving behavior of automated vehicles, as we worked here also together with the automotive campus from Helmond and linked the driving behavior to our models here, in this case to prepare the models. So these were the basic set of questions, and then we analyzed different use cases with our cities. So in Helmond, for example, it was a signalized intersection or the transition from interurban highway to the city, so an arterial road more. But we also had use cases like shared space in Gothenburg, or a waiting and drop-off area for passengers in Milton Keynes, to a more macro perspective use case in Stuttgart, Germany, where also the impact of driverless car and ride-sharing services, for example, on the mobility system have been analyzed. So different sets of these use cases, all analyzed against the 3 questions with different parameter settings. Where can they drive? How do they drive? What's the market share actually of AVs? And what was the outcome is actually that nearly in all use cases, we could see for this early transition phase, when you have when you only have a few automated vehicles, that actually there's a decreased traffic performance in the whole system, which is due to the fact that due to the cautious behavior in this early stage, the conventional vehicles are more or less a burden or a barrier to fully exploit the potential of automated vehicles. So it could actually lead to more congestion and decreased traffic performance in these early stages, which is more the fact for, let's say, less structured traffic environments like roundabouts or shared spaces, of course, and this decrease is smaller for highly structured traffic environments, where already today CITS could of course be supportive for the introduction of AVs, like highways or these arterials and signaled intersection, like the examples from Helmond actually. And so we clearly see that CITS is a good precondition also to optimize the traffic flow of conventional vehicles, and thereby the introduction of AVs is actually also more smooth and optimized. So for our cities, it was clearly a recommendation. Actually, at an early stage, you should regulate where connected and automated vehicles are allowed to operate, on which infrastructure parts in our city, and also really have a kind of a assessment again, what infrastructure elements of our city are automation ready, and we should prioritize also which should be developed towards automation readiness in which stage. Also on this macro perspective, we clearly could see that actually the negative effects of these, the introduction of connected and automated vehicles is more and more decreasing when you have higher shares of AVs in the system, and of course also the driving logic is developing towards this all-knowing driving logic. So the all-driving knowledge, actually, driving style is implicitly having a CITS perspective, because you're connected to everything in the surrounding and have the perfect perception of your surrounding in this driving style. So in a nutshell, also for this, it's actually very important for cities to prepare for negative aspects or impacts which could come with this early transition phase, and to really be proactive in the approach to anticipate such issues and regulate the CAV deployment in your cities. So maybe coming back to Laszlo's introduction of your project, I would say we also checked actually the performance and modeling and simulation environments of AVs, and approved actually where are they allowed to drive, or should they be allowed to drive, and at which levels in terms of the introduction. What are we doing now with this? Of course, we discussed these findings from the Coexist project with our partner cities in Dynaccessibility, but as said, we will work with our cities also on these self-assessment exercises using the automation ready framework, but also develop a further guidance. And there's already a practitioner briefing from the Commission contextualized to CCAM planning on the SUMP approach. But we would like to develop this guidance document further with the lessons learned we make with our cities and authorities, update the automation ready framework, and then contextualize everything to this more comprehensive guidance, and involved other projects in this exercise are the Dynaccessibility for Central Europe project, but also another Interreg project planning for automated vehicles from the North Sea region, which is called PAVE. So this is actually the main key output of our CCAM perspective in the Dynaccessibility project, a planning guide for CCAM. Some conclusions. Through our work with the cities, we see that actually the planning for innovative new mobility solutions is actually more a fundamental change process in the terms or in the way how you plan mobility in the future. So, as I said, less predict and act, more adaptive and agile approaches are needed for the introduction of these new trends. We see really participation and integration is key. So we need all stakeholders involved. And of course, it was also mentioned by Tamara, the public acceptance and perception of, for example, CCAM will be a key issue here to go forward in the way of deploying an introduction of AVs. Of course, we see risks. Also, I mentioned some risk for the transition phase. So the impact analysis is really, really important at this early stage. But clearly, new emerging technologies are also new opportunities for sustainable urban development. So it's really important to create room for experiments, embrace innovations. And I think, again, what we saw from Helmond and the Living Lab approach here is a very good example how you can create room for experiments around these new mobility trends and solutions. Last but not least, this is more a recommendation and a message we have from the Dynexability project. It's really local actors, decision makers should be proactively in the way of planning for new mobility trends. So increase the Dynexability, be prepared, and then we hope that the impact which could come with these new emerging technologies can be fully exploited in the way you plan your mobility systems for your cities. And that's it from my side. So also ready for questions now, if we have the round now or later. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. We have not that much time because we are fast running out. So if you can stay until the end, then we can have questions there. And then I would like to give the word to Sora from Eindhoven University.
Yes. Hello.
Yes. You can share your screen now, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you see?
Okay, so now we heard about connected mobility, and from Sora we would see mobility as a service as a new kind of approach to mobility. Thank you very much.
Thanks. First, I apologize if you hear any background noise. There are some construction works going around here. Yes, my name is Sura Rasuli. I'm a researcher in Eindhoven University of Technology, and today I'll show you some insight we achieved as part of a project with it together with the Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management and the province of North Brabant regarding mobility as a service. Well, mobility as a service, I'm sure you heard also in the previous presentation, it's an innovative mobility solution which promises to transform the mobility behavior of citizens toward a more sustainable version, right? Well, and for those of you who may know less about it, it offers travelers access to prepaid bundles of transportation modes within a single app where they can plan, they can book their trip, and they can pay. So it provides basically convenience for being multimodal. But a precondition for a successful mass deployment is the public acceptance we heard also in the previous presentation, and also the way that the citizens are going to use their mobility app and the transport modes which are within their app. Because imagine a future where same number or more or less the same number of citizens who shifted from their private car to shared mobility as a consequences of mass, but more or less the same number would switch their travel from conventional public transportation also to car sharing or ride sharing. So such a future cannot really promise the fundamental change in the challenges cities are facing, like emissions and congestions. So it's important again to understand before perhaps spending large amount of public fund in deployment of mass, to have an understanding of what would be the consequent effect of mobility as a service once it's deployed. And this is what we have been asked to shed light as part of this SCRIPTS project. Well, it actually was a result of two projects. One more focused on urban areas and the other more rural areas, and the inclusions of some soft variables. So what we did here, because at the time there was no pilot in the Netherlands, so we did design a very systematic, what we call the stated choice experiment, where the respondents would have to assume that there is this service available, and we led them to make their own bundle. So we said 7 transportation modes are available, and you can make your own bundle, having maximum 4 transport modes, choosing 4 transport modes out of those 7. And then we basically show them how much it would cost per month and what would be what we call pricing schemes of each of those transport modes. For instance, if the public transport is, they have to pay per ride, or if it's unlimited ride, or it's a percentage of a discount. We change this, what we call it, this attribute, if we call this attribute, we change the attributes level, and eventually by collecting data from a citizen and then analyzing by some statistical approach, we would understand that what would be the demand if a certain type of mobility as a service is offered in terms of monthly fee and the pricing schemes of those transportation modes. And in addition, so in this part, what we wanted to know is what would be the demand, the eventual demand as a consequence of the characteristic, but also maybe more interesting also for the service providers is that how much respondents are willing to pay extra if some extra features are added into the app. But I'll show you a little bit more detail later. We collected data of about 1,000 respondents in Amsterdam and Eindhoven. And each respondent basically is exposed to 8 different situations. So each situations correspond to each certain type of mobility as a services, and then they would basically indicate if they are interested or not, and if so, make their bundle, which transport mode they would include in the bundle. The attributes we basically play with in the experiment was one price of the monthly price. We define 4 levels, starting from 150 euro per month up to 240. The data amount of data required for registration, if they have only to provide email or also address or bank account. And interestingly, we realize respondents are not very sensitive to the amount of information they would provide. So privacy, apparently, they kind of seems to trust. And then the other attribute was time commitment. So if it's 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, and 1 year, to see again if there are strong preferences for any time commitment there. And then also the list of transportation modes, which are all available in Netherlands, in Eindhoven and Amsterdam particularly: public transport, bike sharing, car sharing, taxi, car rental, ride sharing, and on-demand bus. So again, they could choose a maximum 4 out of these 7 into their bundle. And then we also wanted to look into the influence that the social network behavior may have on people's choice. So if a certain percentage of citizen, family, friends, and other social networks already hypothetically, let's say, subscribe to mask, if that would impact the decision to do so. And because of that, so we also include the attributes of market shares, hypothetical market share among relatives, friends, and colleagues. And again, we define 4 levels from 0%, so nobody in your social network, subscribing to 25%, 50%, and 75%. That part also would help us to stimulate the diffusion of this innovation in the future. This table shows, gives an overview of the pricing schemes. So public transport, for instance, the 4 levels we again changed in different choice set to see how people would react. We had unlimited ride in one zone, and then they have to pay per ride in other zones. The other level is always pay per ride, but they can get always 20% discount. And the last level is pay per ride, so they really have to pay per each of ride. And then we define this kind of pricing scheme for each of those 7 transport modes. And so we try to be close to what is in reality, so what basically these transport providers offer. As you see, they are different. For instance, for car rental, the levels are, for instance, 4 days included. When they pay per month, they can have 4 days without extra payment, and then they have to pay per ride. Or the other level is 2 days included and then pay per ride, and so on. For bike sharing, it is based on hour. So on either unlimited ride, 1 free hours, and so on. So we define, and then for the extra features, again, this gives an overview, but in summary, we ask respondents also to indicate if they are willing to pay a bit of extra, 5%, 10%, 15% extra on their monthly fee if there are certain additional features like if CO2 would be tracked, if they can get information or real-time alert and notification about travel events on the way, or penalty about a penalty fee if they want to cancel their subscription before the end of their agreement, and so on. And this is the way that the page of a survey would look like. So that basically the respondent would see such a face. It was a web-based questionnaires. So here on the left side, it shows these 7 transport modes with one of those pricing schemes. And then on the right side, we have a monthly fee and then the amount of data required and the share of family and friends. And then the respondent basically can decide, yes, I want to subscribe, and no, I don't. And if the person indicates the interest, then as you see, he or she could basically choose or tick maximum 4 on the left side to indicate which of maximum 4 transport modes he would like to include in his bundle. Yeah. And then this is then the second screen he would see for the extra features. So then we said then there are 2 options basically, that 3 options. One is no extra features, and then option 1 is then there are some of those extra features could be included, and option 2 yet other sets of extra features. And for option 1, it's 7.5 extra euro per month has to be paid, and for option 2, 9 euro per month. And then the person basically could decide if he wants to go and add these extra features. It was a web-based questionnaire. As I said, we also collected obviously social demographic characteristics, and also where the person lives, because we wanted also to look into the effect that the spatial characteristic of the area the person lives and work could have on the accessibility to like public transportation could have. This slide gives indication of social demographic of the respondents, but important here is that the shares and the profile of social demographic is very close to the national profile, because we used a company for data collections, and this company has a panel of random citizens living in the Netherlands. So it was not very surprising that we could get very close social demographic profile as the one exists in the country. So here, as you can see, 18% of respondent overall indicated interests, which is what expected, I would say, because at the time the study, so the data collection happened in 2017, and at the time even the discussion about the pilot didn't really exist in the country. And then more interesting maybe were that majority of the respondents showed interest to have extra features, even though they had to pay for that extra features. And then the graph on the right also shows the transport mode they included in their bundle. As expected, public transportations were the one with the highest share, and then followed maybe less expected by some less environmentally friendly modes like car rental and taxis. And on-demand bus was the lowest chosen, because again, it was probably quite a more new concept, and probably some of them didn't know what is it or didn't really trust. Then we try basically to then understand that how each of those attributes would impact on citizens' decisions. These two graphs shows an indication. The left side illustrated the effect of monthly fee. And so basically on the vertical axis, we have the willingness to adopt, or the utility, because we use the switch choice model here. I don't go into the detail. And the horizontal is those 4 levels for the monthly fee, 150 up to 240. And as expected, with increasing the fee, the tendency of utility decrease, we can use all this information, these parameters, I would say, to make a forecasting model to see really the number, the total number of citizens who would respond. And then on the right side, this is for the amount of extra they have to pay, extra payment for adding features. And again, as you can see, as expected, probably by increasing the price, the tendency decrease. More into the effect of some other attributes we play. So for public transportation, for instance, the highest interest happen when it's offered by flat rate. So it means people just pay at the beginning of the months, and then they can use unlimited public transportation. For the e-bike sharing, the highest interest happened when it is offered with 50% discount. And for instance, one other level was 1 free hour per day and then pay per ride, but that happened not to attract the most, but the levels or the pricing schemes that they could get 50% discount was the most interesting one. And yes, and for taxi, for instance, they were not really interested in a very inclusive rate, because the highest inclusive for taxi was that they could have 50 kilometers free per month, but they were not really interested in that. And because probably they, at least majority, they didn't feel they would need 50 kilometers of taxi per month. Well, I would say this is the average, obviously, and then we estimate, again, I'm not going into the detail, but we also estimated what we call random parameters to see, well, obviously there are differences exist between different people depending on their need. And if we want to have more precise estimations of the demand, we have to take into account that heterogeneity. But again, lack of time, I just go through basically the average effect that we could get. And for the social network, also interesting is that with increasing the share of social network, having adopt mass, the tendency of responding would increase, but until 75, so it's like if really a great majority of the social networks adopt, it will not influence anymore, but to increasing the tendency to adopt. And it suggests that about the diffusion of the innovation, it's really increased dramatically by increasing the demand, and then it kind of stagnates at a certain moment in time. About the social network, social demographics, females seems more interest than male in general, and as expected, younger people between 18 to 35 are among the most interested groups. And we also looked at the education and income, and there are differences exist also in that sense. And it also shows, because we also took into account the current travel behavior characteristics, and it shows that some of them are significant in their choice. For instance, if people use mostly walking and biking in their daily travel, they are less willing to adopt mass. Probably because the least, so the cheapest basically subscription was 150, and then if they didn't need that, they show less interest. And we also looked into the spatial characteristic of the area they live and work. And then we also found some significant impact. Amsterdam, people living in Amsterdam are more interested on average compared to Eindhoven. And people who are living in urban areas and on the ring, again, are more willing compared to the rural. And that probably is because probably there's less trust in some services, like sharing services and so on. And when people are living in areas with very good accessibility to public transportation, also show less willingness. And lastly, in that sense, also if there is more than one car in the household, also there's less likely for them to adopt that. We also include some soft variables like attitudinal toward technology, innovation, and trust in web-based technology. But again, because of lack of time, I will skip that. If you are interested, you can contact me. I send you some deliverables and evidence we have. So that part was about, so we could get a very good understanding of who will subscribe to mass under which circumstances and under which kind of bundle pricing and so on. But then the second part, as I mentioned, is how they're going to use the bundles. If they are going to use more like sharing as opposed to conventional public transport and so. So in the second part, we were waiting actually for a real pilot to start for the second part, but it did not happen. So we had to go for plan B, what we call stated adaptation choice experiment, where we asked respondents to report the daily travel for 2 days. So what they really did in reality, two real day, last week or the week before. And then we told them, now assume you already had subscribed to this particular mass scheme. And we changed. Sometimes we show, to some of respondents, we show scheme A, B, C, and D. As you can see, scheme D is more expensive, but there are more inclusive pricing schemes. We had public transport, car sharing, taxi, and e-bike sharing. So 4 transport modes in essence. And then we asked them if they would change any of those transport modes that they report, that they use it now, with any of these transport modes available in their mass scheme, to see then how they're going to use that. But we had a screening question because we did not want to force respondents to accept that they subscribe to a particular mass. So first we asked them the level of interest in the service, if one day it becomes available, and we only continue with the respondent who indicate they have some level of interest in mass. And then this is the way basically the look like. This is assume that you have this particular bundle on the left side. And then the table on the top is the travel they reported they did in reality. And then here on the table in the bottom, we said now indicate if you want to stick with what you already did, which is the second column in the table below, or any of the transport mode within this mass bundles. And then they could basically choose. This shows how, on average, they switched to different transport modes from the current. As you can see, for instance, we see a really decrease in driving alone, which is good, which is, I think, a good indication, from 30% to 15%. Also decrease in biking, but increase in bike sharing. So they were willing to adopt more sharing in that sense. But then the less use of bus, tram, and train, and less walking, which is not a very promising insight. And so 58% of the total number of trips, they stick to their transport mode they already, so what we said, inertial, the amount of inertia. Almost 60% they didn't change, 58%. And people who were assigned to bundle A and D, so the cheapest and the most expensive, were the least inclined to change. The ones on the middle side were showing more interest. And this table, I'm not going into the detail, but showed that, for instance, on the left side is the transport mode they reported, they really did use, walking, biking, and e-bike. And then on the column, it shows then which percentage of those reported transport modes were switched to each of available modes within the mass, depending on the type of bundle, A, B, C, and D. The way it can be interpreted, I just go through the first one. So if they, so for all the trips reported using walking as a transport mode, we'll see that 70% of those trips remain unchanged, while like 13% they switch from walking to public transport, and 6% they switch to car sharing, 8% to bike sharing, and very small to taxi. Again, I skip this because of the lack of the time, but what we realize, as also expected, that people are very sensitive in choosing transport mode depending on travel time and the price, so travel costs basically. As I said, what is important here is all these numbers here, because it allows us to really forecast and not the general tendency, but to forecast what will happen in terms of switching behavior. Again, if we have papers already published, so if you are interested to look into, you can contact me. But how cities can use this information. So it's a lot of numbers and things that might not interest many stakeholders. So what we did then eventually, which these maps I think would be more interesting for cities and other stakeholders, is that we use all this knowledge created by all this data collection and simulation to understand what would happen in Amsterdam in terms of at the 4-digit postcode and also at the link levels when different scenarios of mass are deployed. So here is an example again, that is as a scenario A. Scenario A can be correspond to the different pricing schemes and price we are seeing. And then it shows that in different zones in Amsterdam, the amount of emissions, and we compare it basically with the base scenario, which do nothing, so no mass. And here is the same like emissions, but at the road network levels. So yeah, so again, so important is to have some understanding of the impact mass would have before investing lots of public funds and so on to start deploying a pilot or even larger scale mass, and to be more confident about to what extent cities can basically tackle the challenges once it's deployed. So I will be happy to answer any questions.
So thank you, Sora, for the presentation. I don't know, can you stay a little bit more until the end, half an hour more? Because then we would have the question session there. So thank you very much. And because time is running, we have seen what is the initiatives throughout the European Union, but now I would like to go a little bit closer to our region, because we would like to, from this region also join this kind of initiatives for the future. And I would like to give the word to Gábor Heves to have this presentation, how we started to cooperate within in the region in these issues.
Good morning. It is my pleasure to be on this webinar. Let me share my screen. I hope you can see my face just to introduce myself.
Yes, we can see you. Great.
Okay, and now I share my screen. Just a moment. Okay. So let me greet you. I'm coming from Nagykanizsa, which is a medium-sized city in South Hungary. It's in the border region with Croatia, Slovenia, and also not far from Austria. So this is why we will talk about cross-border cooperation in the Austria, Croatia, Hungary, and Slovenia region. And let me tell you about some findings, some state-of-the-art kind of findings from this year that we had. But first, let me give you some introduction who I am, and let me also introduce you this region. I try to talk a bit slower so that the translation can also be okay. Let me go to the next slide. Just a moment. First of all, let me introduce you our company, which is called IMRO DDKK Nonprofit Ltd. Just to know what kind of partner we are. Our motto is that we care for the environment. We're a non-profit consultant company working for the environment. And as I told you, we're based in the border region of Hungary, Slovenia, Croatia, and to some extent Austria. So this is why we engage with a lot of cross-border projects in this region. Most importantly, CBC projects, but also a number of other projects like Horizon or EIT, urban mobility related activities. We have 10 years of experience in urban development and especially energy efficiency. So this is also our main focus now, energy efficiency in mobility, in smart mobility applications. And just one word of introduction about me as a person, that in my career I've worked for a number of mobility-related European initiatives, such as the Civitas initiatives. We've been running the Civitas Secretariat for almost 10 years. the ELTIS portal, many of you may know Europe's urban mobility portal, or EIT activities like InnoEnergy or KIC Climate. But in this presentation, I'd like to talk to you about our experiences relating to a project concept which we have developed as a connecting project for EIT urban mobility this year. Our aim was to connect the RIS region of Croatia, Slovenia, Hungary, Austria, to the SMS project, which Laszlo introduced earlier. And now just a few words about the region itself. Many of you are from a bit farther away geographical regions, so I circled the geographic area which is our interest. Depending how many states like Bundesländer or counties we count, we are talking about 10 border counties in these countries, border counties or regions like Bundesland. Many of these counties have some problems and some strength joint strength. And one of these is that they try to, many of them, or almost all of them, try to focus on economic development through promoting innovation. Like Laszlo talked about the smart vehicle proving ground, which is based in Vas County, or Zala and Vas County in this border region. Also, one common issue that we try to solve with introducing smart solutions is that, especially in border regions, there is an issue with demographic trends. People are getting older, and people are leaving rural spaces. So this is very important that we have an aging population, and we have a population which is moving away from rural areas. So when we develop smart mobility solutions, then we need to keep in mind some of these trends. And what we have done this year to address this issue is that we have developed a partnership which had 4 partners. Our company was the coordinator, IMRO, DDKK, and we had the University of Maribor from Slovenia. We had the regional development agency of Koprivnica-Križevci country in Slovenia, and we had Zalaegerszeg, the city of Zalaegerszeg also in the project. What we have developed, basically we developed a concept which is ready to be implemented, and then already with some experiences and recommendations that I try to share with you, is that first we developed the concept of a state-of-the-art review about best available technologies and various promising initiatives for testing automated vehicles in this cross-border region. We have done some work, but the bulk of the work is ahead of us, because this project was unfortunately not funded. So the big work is still ahead of us, but we are presenting this to you because we believe that the concept is solid, and hopefully with the new RIS calls, this can go forward. That might be that this year, I mean, in the coming year or the year after, we will see. The state-of-the-art review included basically literature review as well as interview series, which was led by the University of Maribor. They are also in the line right now. I list in the list of participants, and they have long experience in this topic, and we also have many years of cooperation between Zone Cluster and University of Maribor. The second activity that we have developed is to adapt the platform's business model to the RIS region. We are talking about the platform which was developed as part of the CALL4SMS project, which you heard earlier. And our aim was to test how this common business model can be applied in the cross-border region. And most importantly, we, out of these 4 countries, we picked I would say two counties. One county in Hungary, which is Zala County, and we picked one country, which is Zalaegerszeg County in Croatia. Both of these counties are predominantly rural countries, so this is where we could test what I have told you, and certainly they have some urban centers as well with medium-sized cities. The third activity that we have developed is to validate the platform design concept in a local setting. Does it work or does it not work? Or if something needs to be changed, what can be changed? And as part of this requirement, we have started collecting the city requirements for implementing the CALL4SMS platform in Slovenia, Hungary, and Croatia. Our main focus, our narrowest focus was Slovenia, Hungary, and Croatia, but these activities can be extended to Austria as well, especially those Bundesländer which are close to the Hungarian border. And finally, we had some more traditional outreach activities in Zalaegerszeg County and Zala County, which is basically engaging local and regional municipalities, transport authorities, and medium and small-sized enterprises. And regarding SMEs and innovative SMEs, this was also one of the reasons why we have picked one organization, which is an SME involved with social innovation and also to some extent technical innovation, which is our company itself. And I'm aware that the time is running very low and we are slowly rounding up the webinar. So let me tell you about one more thing, how we see the way forward from this project. Our experience and the result of many consultations and discussions is that this concept that I have just presented seems to be a valid working model for connecting local activities, local RIS projects to EIT urban mobility projects, more concretely the CALL4SMS project. We have an established partnership. I have listed you 4 partners, which includes a university, regional development agency, city, and SME. But we are very open to bring in, invite new partners as well from other countries such as Austria, and also from other stakeholders which are maybe not that represented currently. So let me conclude my short presentation with this remark, and I can share you with my contact information with you, and please feel free to contact us, and also look forward to your questions now. Here is my email where you can contact me. So thank you very much for your attention.
So thank you very much for the presentation. And now I also share my screen actually. So yes, I put it on total screen. Yes, so we heard about the experiences with the city of Milan. We heard about the city of Helmond. We also heard about the Interact Accessibility initiatives. We also heard about projects like Mobility as a Service. And now we also see that we start to some kind of cooperation in the area between Hungary, Slovenia, Croatia, and probably Austria. So now I would like to, so this is what was the past, and I would like to focus a little bit on the future. So what kind of projects we have already in the region and running from 2021 or in 2021, and how we can connect, because I said CALL4SMS was not funded for the second year, but I think we have a valuable cooperation on an international scale, we have a valuable cooperation on a regional scale, and how we can combine this together. So first of all, what are the projects, what we are doing next year, and some of the partners you can also, who presented here, would you find here. So next year we would have a project called e-Ultimate in EIT Urban Mobility, which is to test e-buses within Europe. We cooperate with the Green Bus program of Hungary. Some of them of you may know this, but we would like to extend it also to the European context. So we would cooperate with the city of Milano. Also we have the city of Barcelona, the city of Lisbon, and also we have some partners from the city of Decin and the Czech University. So what we are planning to do is to connect this kind of green bus testing on a European scale, and we try to bring out a tool which can help the municipalities to how to plan the e-buses. So that would be one initiative we would run next year. The other initiatives we would be involved, this is with about shared mobilities, about the pollution in the shared mobilities, how you can detect that, and we work together with CEAT, also with UPC, that's the University in Barcelona, with the city of Hamburg, Alto, and now we would work together next year with Zalaegerszeg to test it in buses, also with our members, Icarus CRCC or Electrobus Europe, to test in buses this kind of system which can recognize the trash within the buses, and also it can report and have measures to have tidy vehicles. So this would be another kind of testing that we would do in the area in international cooperation. That's why I'm showing this. What is very important besides the innovation projects, we are also running the EIT Urban Mobility Accelerator project as zone cluster. So if we can bring in startups, companies from the region, out of the region, we can give them a proper acceleration support. As you see in EIT Urban Mobility, there are 5 hubs doing acceleration, and we are one of them in the east. So that's that would be much of our very intention to close also business creation with innovation, and we can really work with the ecosystems, with the local players. So what Gabor has already said is what are the possibilities for this region in EIT Urban Mobility, is the so-called RISH initiatives. That sounds a little bit weird, but RISH really refers to regional innovation system. So that means that those countries, and you see them with green there, which are so-called moderate innovators, they can get an extra funding from EIT Urban Mobility. This is excluded 2 countries, actually Spain and the Czech Republic, because they have hubs there, and mostly also, unfortunately, North Italy is also not involved, but most of the countries within our region, like Slovenia, Croatia, also Serbia, Romania, Ukraine, and Slovakia, can benefit from these initiatives. And from next year onward, there would be the Horizon Europe financing. That would mean that a higher rate, 10% of all the EIT Urban Mobility has to be spent on these kind of projects. So that's why I asked Gabor also to have this presentation, because we think that if we can put together a good consortia, and we can use this project as a cooperation between the Western European initiatives, and also we can bring something to our region. We also cooperate in other initiatives as Zone Cluster. So this is the Industry Modernization Platform of Safe and Sustainable Mobility. So as you may see, this topic is somewhere between, and that's my perception, regional development policy and innovation. So we heard much about the innovation part. Now it's about the regional development part. So for regional development, we have the smart specialization strategy, and those regions who are having the same ideas or having the same target as a smart specialization, they can cooperate together in the so-called industry modernization platform. So that's where we are also within, together with Zala country, and we are leading the smart infrastructure working group. So this initiative was started by 3 regions, not small regions like Bavaria, Ile-de-France region and Aragon, and we also joined these initiatives. And within these initiatives, we managed to develop Horizon 2020 project. And this would be led by the electromobility cluster of Regensburg. But the main idea behind this concept, this project is called Reciprocity. This will start in February. And the main idea behind that is to that we all have these good experiences throughout Europe, and we should replicate this in other areas and other cities. So we are seeking at least 20 cities and municipalities where we can identify good practices, learn from each other, accelerate and share these initiatives. So previously we have selected from Hungary, or we get an incentive that Debrecen, Zalaegerszeg, Nagykanizsa, Kaposvár, and also Koprovica can also work with together in this initiative. So that would be what we start in February. So although the CALL4SMS project is not continuing, we would have an initiative in the region which is about sharing this experiences. So here is the international consortium. You see we have partners from Austria, Czech Republic, Germany, France, also from Belgium, Spain, Finland, and one from Turkey. And where we want to point out some conclusion about the possible cooperation is that, and that's, I think, can be a future for the CALL4SMS project. So I said one future can be to do with the Eastern European partner a kind of a risk project within EIT urban mobility. So that was the innovation part, but there is also this regional development part, and I don't know if you know about it, but next year there would be a new kind of possibility to finance regional cooperation project with innovation in them. That is called Inter-Regional Innovation Investment, or E3. I don't know if you know that by now. It's not known because it's a new initiative in Interreg Europe program. Previously, it was known actually as Component 5 because, you know, the cross-border cooperation is Component 1, and bigger regional corporations like Central Europe or Danube is this Component 5 and Component 2, and this should be an extra added to that. So that would be possibly, if everything goes good, available middle of next year. So as you see, there are financial support would be to accelerate market uptake in innovation and to use the different testing environments in cooperation. And demonstrate that these facilities can work together. So that was the basic idea behind CALL4SMS. So I would really think that this is a kind of a direction where we go with a partnership, We already talked about it, that this can be an initiative to use the partnership also within the risk region and with the international partnership of the CALL4SMS project to go this direction. And we can also develop the value chain within the risk region also with the help of this investment. So that was what I wanted to say about the state of art, where we are heading with our project. And as last but not least, I would like to show you our initiative, how we plan to cooperate with you, or how we plan to cooperate further with the CALL4SMS project. So actually in the CALL4SMS project, we would like to have further objectives to use the strategic and geographical position of Hungary and build out an innovation cooperation network for smart mobility solution testing for both the experts and organization using this quadruple helix model. So I mean the city, industry, knowledge institution, and also citizen engagement. So what we are really planning is to, as you see, for the risk region, we have around Hungary 3 big areas like Slovenia, Croatia, Serbia, Romania, and Slovakia, Romania, and Ukraine on the other side. So we try to develop these cross-border cooperation with us, with Hungary, and we try to connect these cooperations with the international consortia, with the international consortia members, also with Milano, Helmond, and the other networks or presentation what you have. So the basic idea is to have a kind of an expert network and to have a kind of, so those people who would like to cooperate with us, and also to have a regional cooperation network with those companies, those organizations, those cities who would like to cooperate with us on this. So, so just to show you what we have started in our region, what are our biggest initiatives. So we see that in our borders are 2 Austrian initiatives like the Test TPS and Hub Connect project with Digitans and AppLab. So there we have already started initiatives in the mobility testing, but we also would like to connect with the quadruple cross-border area like the Austrian initiative, Hungarian initiative with Slovenia and Croatia. As you see, we already started e-bus testing in Zalaegerszeg, but we also moved to the other side of the town. So we cooperate with our members, ELMU, with e-charging infrastructure development, and also with European parties. We developed projects, unfortunately didn't one, but we try to continue with that. We would like to also get involved in drone mobility, artificial intelligence-based traffic management, sustainable urban mobility planning. We cooperated with Debrecen on these issues, and we also cooperate with Serbia on e-charging infrastructure development and bike navigation. So these are the ideas what we have within the region, and about the planned implementation of the expert network is that we would like to initiate for RIS and also for not RIS members to have a kind of a collaboration agreement to sign with our cluster, zone cluster, as an individual expert. And this collaboration agreement describe that you would like to cooperate with us. With this network, we can also develop further projects. So that's the main idea: who's interested in cooperating with us as an expert, and who's really willing to cooperate with us with an organization. So I am not saying that it's why we need it in Britain is, yeah, because of, as you may know, and many of you are involved in project, we need to do some kind of KPIs that has to be fulfilled. But I think, and for that we made a very short cooperation agreement. you can download it in the link, and I would send it to everybody who registered for this conference. So it's I think it's very easy to fill out. You just have to fill out your name, gender, country, and email. And if it's a company agreement, also the name of the company, and the basic profile what you initiate to cooperate with. And I hope we can have this as an agreement that we can start cooperation. It's non-binding, so you don't have costs or financial expenses that is levied on you. It's just a kind of an intention that we would like to cooperate in this area and develop project for our region and to connect it with the international. So that was from myself. I'm really thanking for you for your attention so far, and now I think I stop sharing my screen, and now I would give the word for a little bit of questions and answers, if you have any question or answer there. So any one of you have a questions toward?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, thank you.
To Gabriela Cria, are you here? Gria.
Yes, I am.
Did you mention about Milan lighthouse cities, and what is the common these cities, and what kind of cities are you collected in this project?
Well, the project was, let's say, as required, the project was a lighthouse project. So a project which was gathering the effort of different cities, some which were mentioned as lighthouse or leaders, which were Lisbon, London, and Milan, which put in place initiatives and demonstrations and developed some innovations in the fields of sharing shared services, energy efficient measures, and so on. And other cities which originally, let's say, traditionally would be called followers, but within the framework of the project are fellow cities, and these cities were Bordeaux, Burgas, and Warsaw, that basically contributed, let's say, contributed to the debate, and let's say capitalized on the lessons learned of the investments and on the let's say implemented measures from the leading cities.
Thank you very much. Your presentation was very impressive and very innovative. And one other thing is, what does it mean, the condo car? Do you
means basically that we have experimented. There were like large blocks, condominium, large blocks of flats in the selected areas where there was a testing of dedicated car sharing for the inhabitants. And there were like two different profiles. The first profile was to dedicate 2 cars exclusively to those inhabitants, which of the blocks, which wanted to join the program, so to enroll in the program, and therefore, instead of having each one in their car, there was of course a dedicated booking system for these 2 cars. And this was a trial of a possible service that can be scaled up in different areas and in different blocks. The other one, let's say, use case was to have basically still the rights related to 2 cars, which have to be always available for the flats, but also to use as well the other vehicles of the service provider, which was providing so it's a service provider which is providing services in general in the city of Milan and in the metropolitan area, and therefore the second use case was a mixed use. You could use the normal service and as well the one related to your block. So broadening, let's say, the perspective and the impact in terms of usability and of as well of potential behavioral change. So abandoning your own car for a car sharing subscription.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so any other questions? So until we have the question, I would ask Marcel to, we have prepared a little bit of a survey. So I asked Marcel to start this survey. This is a feedback for our conference. So please give your opinion about how did you like our conference. And after that, we have the survey. You can also have questions. So please have 1 minute to fill in the questionnaire, and then until you fill in, you also, if you have questions, please come forth. So,
Laszlo, I think Wolfgang has a question in the chat section.
Yes. Yes, we had a question. Has the city of the Zalaegerszeg thought about becoming a target city for Clean Bus Europe platform?
Yes, there was already the answer from Veronica Eros regarding this. So yeah, I'm happy to get in contact with you and we can talk about the possibilities to become part of this. Yep.
Okay, great.
Okay, hello. Thank you, Wolfgang, for the answer. I would be happy to continue discussing about the platform with you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any other questions?
Yes, I have another question to Wolfgang. Wolfgang, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Just a short question. How many research institutes do you have dedicated to CCAM initiative? Are you there only?
Yeah, I mean, now in this ongoing project on accessibility, we actually have no research institutes really. It's more consultancies, other organizations, besides maybe Austria Tech. They're really involved in the CCAM topic from Austria. So it's more really a city perspective, how to prepare for these new mobility trends. But in terms of research and the CCAM topic, there is this new partnership, this new platform, CCAM platform from the European Commission, where everyone can, all research institutes, cities, other stakeholders can become partner. I think there's an open call at the moment to become part of this platform. And in terms of research results, I can only recommend to have a look at the knowledge base of the Arcade Horizon project, which is a coordination platform activity for all EU projects related to CCAM. It's called Arcade. There's a knowledge base with a lot of data, publications, etc., which is very valuable.
So there aren't any research institute?
Besides Austria Tech, not really involved in the project at the moment. it's more the public transport authorities and the operators who are involved.
Thank you. Thank you, Marek.
Okay. Yeah.
My name was Peter Szilasi. Sorry for...
Yes. Okay, so any other questions or comments or suggestions?
Good afternoon for everyone. Sorry, I have just a short general question to László. And first of all, my name is Eszter Kaszás from Zalaegerszeg. I'm working at Zalaegerszeg Urban Development Ltd. First of all, thank you for all presentation, because there was all of them very impressive, and there was a lot of successful and methods and good practices. My question would be to László, that is it possible to send all of the presentations to the participants, and maybe the contact details to the presenters if we have some questions?
Actually, that's what I wanted to say, that yeah, we
sorry.
would collect all the presentation. We have the recording of this webinar also. So we would share the webinar and also collect the presentation and send it to all registered members. Possibly if I think the presenter may give the contacts or the consent, I would ask them to give the consent. So I would also give the contact, but I would also encourage everybody to get into our network, and then we can make also the contact with any of the presenters here.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so other questions? So if we don't have any other questions, then thank you very much for being here. If you just for one moment switch on your camera, just to make that attention that who were the hardcore who was here all the time until, yeah. Yeah, I see. Okay, okay. Thank you very much for being with us, and I wish all to you a nice meal as the following, and have a nice day. And I hope we would keep in touch, and we would be cooperating in the future in next project. So thank you very much. And have a nice day. So goodbye.
Thank you, László.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.